morning. Today is April 4th, Monday, April 4th, and this is the Delaware Division of Child Support Services Child Support Connection. My name is Ted Murmagos, and I am the Division Director here in the state of Delaware. And I'm hoping that we have some folks who have some questions about child support here in Delaware. And that I can answer any questions that people may have. Just as a reminder, we do this Child Support Connection the first Monday of every month from 11:30 to 12:30, and we specifically scheduled it at that time, hopefully to attract folks who are on their lunch hours or could get a break away from their places of employment. To listen to a little bit of information about child support here in Delaware. Like I said, we're here the first Monday of every month, as long as it's not a state holiday. Sometimes we try to reschedule it if it is a state holiday, if that falls on the first Monday, but sometimes we just skip a month and go on to the next month. But I'm happy that people are starting to log in and learn a little bit about some of the things we do here at the Child Support Office. And I love to receive questions, and you can put your question in the comment area, and I will certainly give it an opportunity. I always will put the question out there so that other people know that there's similar questions, that's something that they may have. And if I can't answer your specific question, I usually try to refer people to send us a private message with your case number or some contact information, and either I or my associates will get in touch with you directly. But I thank people for joining us, and certainly welcome any questions that you may have about the child support offices. I also wanted to I will several times during this video live event give you the contact information. So if you have a question about your specific child support case, you can always call customer service here at the division, and that phone number is 302-577-7171, and I think it's number 5 on the phone prompt. And you can actually speak to a child support specialist who can answer your specific case questions. The other thing that number will, that customer service telephone number will give you is our automated voice response system, and you can, plug in a different number and get information about our tax intercept program, or about what other enforcement tools we have at child support that you could take advantage of. Or if you want to find out if a payment came in and you don't want to necessarily speak to someone, you can use that automated system first to see if a payment came in. And then if you want to talk to somebody after, you can hit number 5 on the phone prompt, and you can actually speak to a child support specialist who can answer your specific case questions. So that number was 577-7171. And what I'm going to try and do at the end of this video, so if you're on now and you've got to log off early, you can always come back and watch this video. At the end of the video, I'll post a slide up with our contact information, so it's always there. As I develop the Facebook Live event, I'm going to tinker with it a little bit and try new things and see about using this system as a way to provide more information about the child support program here in Delaware. So I always like to take an opportunity to talk about our mission statement. And I know this is repetitive to some folks, but I try to do this every Facebook Live event, is give you our mission statement. And our mission at the Division of Child Support Services is to deliver quality customer support by partnering with parents to improve the lives of the children and their families. This is achieved through obtaining accurate child support orders to meet the financial, medical, and emotional needs, to promote family self-sufficiencies and the best outcomes for families. So, we changed that mission statement a couple years ago because, along with some other things, and we changed our division's name to to be more family-centered or family-oriented. And it's really about trying to connect non-custodial parents with custodial parents and their children, and making sure that families are supported the best possible way, both emotionally, financially, and with medical insurance coverage if that's needed. So we already have a question, so I'm going to go ahead and read that question and give you an answer. Good morning. What is the next step when an employer refuses to respond to a withholding order? So, good question. So, a order of income with an order of income attachment is in other terms, is a wage withholding, a income withholding, a wage attachment. So these documents, in about 99.9% of the court orders that are created by the family court, the courts is going to order that an income withholding order be sent to an employer. The employer is to, obviously, once they receive that income withholding order, do whatever they need to do to put it in their payroll system. Sometimes employers have to send that income withholding order to their payroll processing company. Sometimes they do it in-house, and they can set it up that income withholding order basically be attached to the non-custodial parent's wages. So whenever the non-custodial parent gets paid, they would make an order of income. They would make a deduction from that non-custodial parent's paycheck and send that payment to the child support office. So there is a little bit of time in the beginning for the employer to receive that document and actually set it up in their payroll system and make that deduction the next time the non-custodial parent gets paid. The employer is obligated by Delaware law to if that person is employed there, to send that payment to the child support office, set it up and send it in. This question deals with when an employer does not take those steps. So what we try to do here is, if we send a wage withholding order to the employer, they're also obligated, and I kind of forgot this, to send us a document if the person is not working there, never worked there, was working there but has been terminated or left their employment. But they are obligated by Delaware law to follow that order of income withholding. If the employer is not doing that, the non-custodial parent still works there and is not, and they are not taking that deduction, the first thing we'd like to do is have our worker contact that employer, have the child support specialist call the employer and find out why that they're not honoring that wage withholding or that order of income withholding. And strongly encourage that, and let them know by law they're required to do that if the person is still employed there. If they continue to not follow the order of income withholding and the non-custodial parent is still employed there, we will reach out to the Department of Justice, who can work on a more legal path to ensure that company complies with the order of income withholding. This does not happen a lot, but I do know of experiences where we've actually had to take an employer into court to force their hand in following that order of income withholding and sending those payments to the child support office. It's also illegal for an employer to terminate someone because they've received an order of income withholding. And we could certainly get the Department of Justice involved if that's a situation we need to do. The other thing, though, and I caution people, in this day and age, there's a lot of people working under the table. There's a lot of people that are actual subcontractors. So, if a non-custodial parent works at Amazon, they may technically be a subcontractor, a 1099 employee. And in that particular situation, Amazon would not be required to honor that order of income withholding. So, there's always that to take into effect. So we look into that particular situation and whether they are a 1099 employee or whether they're truly an employee of the company. So I hope that answered that question. The next question is, why does Delaware have such a difficult time with out-of-state non-custodial parents? My ex owes me close to $50,000, and I feel like I'm constantly asking my caseworker for enforcement. So, we talk about this from time to time. When the non-custodial parent lives in another jurisdiction, another state, we too, the custodial parent is living here in Delaware. We too, as a child support agency, sometimes feel the frustration that a custodial parent feels when another state or another jurisdiction isn't working as timely or as efficiently or as fast as we would like them to do. Ultimately, we always try to keep it a Delaware case so that we have control over it. But there are those times where we cannot get jurisdiction over the non-custodial parent because they live in a different state. And then we're required to ask that state to enforce their court order, the other state's court order, on behalf of our client here in the state of Delaware. So, yeah, I mean, it can be a frustrating process, but it's really the only way for us to get control when we don't have jurisdiction and we have to ask the other state to do it. Now, some states, that we have to follow their laws and their processes, and sometimes their computer system enforcement tools are different than Delaware's. And there may be more hoops that they require to jump through, that they're required to jump through in order to get certain enforcement tools started. I think for Delaware, we are pretty good at having our child support system realize when people are delinquent on their child support payments, and it will kick in certain enforcement tools. But we're really, and I hate to put it like this because we do work closely with other state jurisdictions, but we child support here in Delaware and other custodial parents are kind of at the mercy of other states and their laws and their case processing activities. So it is frustrating. We understand that, and we try hard to work with those states when someone is delinquent and not paying timely. But really, it falls under their laws and their rules about how they process the cases in their jurisdiction. I've seen zero tax intercepts. This is a follow-up question to that. I've seen zero tax intercepts in terms of tax returns for years. I've been playing this game since 2006. So, that's another thing. When we talk about the tax intercept program, here in Delaware, it really all comes down to, let me say this: if the non-custodial parent owes $50,000 or more in child support arrears, and the non-custodial parent is actually filing taxes and is getting a refund, then that's something that needs to be looked into. The only thing that would take precedence over a federal tax refund, other than take precedence over child support, would be if the non-custodial parent owes money back to the federal government, to the IRS. So if the person does not file or files and doesn't get a tax refund, then we're not going to intercept anything. So if that's a situation, or you believe that the non-custodial parent is getting a refund, then that's something we should explore. And we would ask you to send us a personal message or a DM, and we can get it to the worker to investigate with the other state jurisdiction to find out whether they've submitted him or her to the tax intercept program, the non-custodial parent, or if it's something we need to take a look at here in the state of Delaware. We have another question. My ex bounced around the state, bounced around from state to state, ending up in Texas. He owes $20,000, and according to the law, it is a felony amount. Why do these individuals, never see the inside of a jail? Could you imagine if we didn't? feed, clothes, house, educate our children, we'd be in jail. Okay, so let's see, he's in Texas, 20,000 felony. Why do the, okay. So there are certain criteria. Well, let's back up a little bit. So the non-custodial parents in Texas, and I'm making an assumption, and you could certainly send me another comment. I'm making an assumption that the state of Texas is involved with us here in the state of Delaware. So my thing is that, and I'm going to go back to the question here. When we talk about 20,000, yeah. So let's talk a little bit about other jurisdictions. I kind of already talked a little bit about when the non-custodial parent lives in a different state. So certainly there are on the books criminal prosecutions for individuals who are egregious in not paying child support or flaunting the fact that they're not going to cooperate with court orders issued by either the state of Delaware or another jurisdiction. And they can be criminally prosecuted, but the threshold to secure a criminal prosecution is the bar is very high. And so to treat this in what we currently do, and a majority of the cases obviously are in dealing with child support are a civil matter. So this, it depends on certain jurisdictions and whether they want to pursue somebody criminally for non-payment of their child support order. Now, they're here in the state of Delaware. I can't really speak for how Texas handles the incarceration of individuals, but I do know here in the state of Delaware, people can be incarcerated for flaunting the fact that they're not going to participate in the child support process, and they're not going to honor not going to honor court orders by the family court here in Delaware. So the thing about it is that when someone's incarcerated, I'm going to speak honestly here. When someone's incarcerated, we definitely know, the custodial parent will definitely know, I'm not going to get a child support payment. But what we like to try to do is trying to work with non-custodial parents to either get them on the right track, help them find employment opportunities, work with them closely to see if we can get them to start making payments. And I've said this before on this type of an event. When I talk to non-custodial parents who, sometimes, they look at their child support arrears and they say to themselves, how am I ever going to overcome this mountain of debt that I owe to child support? And what I try to tell them is, it's in your best interest right now to pay what you can pay, but pay it consistently. Pay it every week, pay it every 2 weeks, or pay it once a month. But pay it consistently, and it will definitely be better for you when you go to family court and have to deal with a commissioner because you failed to comply with the order previously. So if they see you're making some kind of an effort to pay that obligation, it will go a long way in helping to avoid being incarcerated. But the courts will incarcerate someone after in Delaware now, after multiple contempts, failure to comply with the court orders, and when they basically are fed up with the non-custodial parents skirting of their obligation to pay child support. So in Delaware, we even though there are criminal statutes on the books as it relates to child support, we would rather pursue it civilly, and we would also rather try to work with non-custodial parents to be compliant or start to get compliant on a consistent basis. Normally, I try to appeal to all non-custodial parents to try and make those payments. The thing about it is, sometimes it takes a while for non-custodial parents to learn a lesson that, I got to do right by my kids. I got to do right by my ex. So, they finally turn that corner and say, I'm going to get on track. I just talked to a gentleman earlier, or at the end of last week, who said, I'm ready to start making an effort. So we talked through a little bit how he can do that and get back on track. And he's going to start making some kind of a payment regularly and try to do the right thing for his kid. And that's a great thing. and we referred him to the Delaware Fatherhood Program, and that's a program that can help him find employment opportunities. There are jobs here in Delaware if people want to work, and we want to help them find those employment opportunities. Let's see here. Agreed, I'm completely frustrated trying to get the state to do anything. It's painful. His parents, let's see, this is just a follow-up. His parents would pay immediately if he were arrested. They dole out an inheritance to him and bought him a condo, 100% support him financially. Yeah, sometimes grandparents do step up and help their kids pay their obligation. Obviously, we really only deal with the non-custodial parents and custodial parents and try to get them to honor their obligations, and, it's, if a gentleman, my recommendation would be this. If he's in Texas, and you can certainly send us a private message, and I'll have the worker research it, and we can get in touch with Texas and talk to them a little bit about what's going on with your case and next steps, and what can we possibly do to excuse me, to move your case to the next level, or the next steps in Texas, to find out exactly what's going on. But like I said earlier, we're kind of at the mercy of that other state, but we can certainly reach out to them, find out what's happening, and see what we can do to kind of push them in taking some actions on your particular case. So if you want to go ahead and send a message, that would be fine to do. So that's my recommendation. We could certainly follow up with the state of Texas and find out what they're planning on doing for next steps. So going back to some of our other things that I'd like to share until we get some more questions. But I appreciate all those questions. They were excellent, and I hope that I was able to answer to the best I could some of your questions. So talking a little bit about our child support services here in Delaware, we're getting ready next week to talk to, and we talked last week to some of the Head Start directors here in the state of Delaware. This is something new we're kind of doing again. We should have been doing this all along, but we're kind of reconnecting with Head Start programs here in Delaware, and we're reconnecting with early education, child education programs in the state this coming week. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the services child support should be providing to parents of Head Start and early childhood education programs here in the state of Delaware. If you know someone whose child is in Head Start or in a early childhood education program, we can work with them directly to help them apply for child support services, and there would actually be no cost for them to enroll in child support. We are also going to be talking to them this coming Monday the 11th about our Voluntary Acknowledgement of Paternity program, and seeking some of their help because they meet with young moms and parents with young kids, young children, and talk a little bit more about how they can help us establish paternity for children who are born out of wedlock here in the state of Delaware. So we are so happy to be reigniting this relationship with the Head Start programs here in the state. So I always like to put some of this new stuff out there when I do the Facebook Live events, because you may not be in Head Start, but you may know somebody who's associated with the Head Start program who needs some services from the Division of Child Support, and we would love to be able to talk to them about how to obtain child support here in the state of Delaware. Just in 2020, in calendar year 2020, we had about 80,000 child support cases here in the state of Delaware, and that has dropped significantly over 2 years, and we have about 73,000 cases right now. Now, I'm on record as saying, when I go and talk to Jake Smith down at WGMD on the third Wednesday of every month, I'm on record saying to Jake, we certainly want parents to work together. And if we can stay out of their lives, we want to stay out of their lives. We want mom and dad and that family unit to work cohesively without child support having to get involved. But we are here. And if custodial parents feel like they need a service from us to help them get child support, or help them establish paternity, or to get a medical order for a medical insurance coverage, we are here to help them do that, and we certainly want to do that. But when I go and talk to Jake, we take phone calls on the radio, and I'll answering questions, and we certainly want parents to be able to work out these issues together. But we are here if they need some help, and we certainly want to provide a service to them also. So let's see, I know I just saw a question come in. Yeah, then I'm going to go ahead and I'll read this comment. I'll say Head Start was a wonderful thing. When they were little, I encourage anyone with small children to look it up. And I appreciate that, Amy. I appreciate you saying that. And we certainly encourage folks that if they're looking for any help with education for early education for their children, man, Head Start is the way to go. We certainly applaud that also, and thank you for saying that. So what about when I had to pay child support? They took all money I owed except 30 cents, and now causing me not to be able to have a hunting permit over 30 cents. I'm going to read this again here. What about when I had to pay child support? They took all the money I owed except 30 cents, and now causing me not to be able to have a hunting permit over 30 cents. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, I'm still a little bit confused by that, but let me talk a little bit about hunting and fishing licenses here in the state of Delaware, and how someone can have their they call it a recreational license taken away. So as you probably suspect, we get a lot of, let me see this follow-up here. Sorry. Even though I was giving my kids back a month or two before, but I still got charged child support, and they took my taxes that year. Okay. So going back to where I was going with this. So if someone owes $3,500 or more in arrears and has been delinquent in their child support payments for over, I think it's 45 days, 30 to 45 days, the child support system will automatically submit someone to the license suspension program. That includes driver's licenses, hunting and fishing licenses, professional licenses, and business licenses here in the state of Delaware. So if someone owes over an arrears balance of $3,500, hasn't made a payment in 30 to, I think it's, I apologize, I think it's actually 60 days, 30 to 60 days. We made some changes over the last year or so to the program. It will automatically submit someone to the license suspension program. We are required, and I say this all the time, we are required by Delaware law to send a notice before we take that action. And we will send a notice to the non-custodial parent that we are going to intercept or suspend a license. It gives the non-custodial parent 20 days to actually give us a call, come into our office, talk to us about the action, and actually work out an arrangement with us to avoid that from happening. So if your hunting or fishing license was taken, it was probably because you met those thresholds. Now, I want to talk a little bit about, you said we took everything but 30 cents. So I already talked a little bit earlier about wage withholdings. So whenever we issue a wage withholding, it will include the I can't remember what it's called, the applicable consumer credit protection limit. And based on the non-custodial parent's living situation, whether they're supporting another family or that type of a scenario, how many families besides the one the order is going to be for, the courts will determine what that correct consumer applicable credit percentage is going to be. It can range from 50% to 65%. So when a wage withholding is issued to an employer, it will tell them that if the non-custodial parent, before you make a deduction to their paycheck for the full amount, it will say if they do not make enough to cover the child support obligations, you should apply these percentages and only send in a percentage of the non-custodial parent's wages. So if so I think in your particular situation there may have been an error by the employer if they deducted everything but 30 cents, unless you made like $1, then they would they at the maximum would send us 65% of that, leaving you with 35%. So I think that may have resulted in an error from the employer. And if you do have your taxes intercepted and they're applied to your arrears balances, once that arrears balance fell below that 3,500, I would have called and seen if we could have dealt with giving you your hunting license back. Because ultimately, we look at those types of payments. If we got a tax intercept from you, we kind of like give non-custodial parents a break and say, all right, we got a payment, we'll give you your license back. Especially if it was, over and above what the current support obligation is for your obligation. So there are things we could have done if you had contacted us to help reinstate your hunting license. And if you still need something to happen, certainly give us a call at 302-577-7171, and we can help you get that license back. Another question. What other measures are being taken to hold non-custodial parents accountable? Because I keep going back to court, but nothing happens. So if you keep going back to court, the courts, like I was mentioning earlier, they have the discretion to incarcerate. But that's certainly, that really doesn't help anybody. And incarceration is used as a last resort. We have a slew of enforcement techniques, enforcement tools, and let's be honest. Sometimes non-custodial parents look at that enforcement tool, and at our enforcement tools, and they shrug them off. Do people drive on a suspended license? Absolutely. Do people care if we report the debt to the credit bureaus? They don't care about that. They're not buying a house or buying a new car. They don't really care that their credit is destroyed. So sometimes non-custodial parents, they shrug their shoulders and just go on with life. One of the things that I often will say, sometimes we look for suggestions. What other things can we do as a child support agency, whether it's developing policy, whether it's developing new Delaware law, what's some tools that we could develop to enforce child support orders in addition to what we're already doing. So, I never turn away ideas. So if people have an idea about things we can do better, not only with the child support program, but to maybe tighten up some enforcement tools or to create new enforcement tools, that's something that we will definitely consider looking at and fleshing out, talking to other state partners, to see if there's things that we can do to increase collections, and especially work with non-custodial parents who want to make a difference and want to turn things around and become more responsible as it relates to their child support obligation. We're always looking to try and do things to encourage people to work from this point forward and try to make a difference in your child support situation. Prior to the pandemic, I was going into level 4 correctional centers here in the state, talking to the incarcerated about their child support and working with them once they were released from incarceration to try to get them, try to get them back on track. So, there's things that we're trying to do, and hopefully once, things get a little bit more stable here in the state of Delaware, I can go back into those facilities. I really did like talking to the incarcerated, giving them an opportunity to answer questions about their child support situation so that we could help them maneuver through this child support system. So, like I said, I'm always looking for new ideas and new things that we can do that maybe will have a little bit more teeth in getting people to consistently pay their child support orders. So, like I said, we're working really hard. I think the thing about it is, at one time, Delaware had a wanted poster. We never had one for the longest time. We put a wanted poster together with individuals who had the most egregious child support situations. It didn't do any better to help us increase child support payments. So, I think working with non-custodial parents and partnering is really the best way to describe it. Is really the best way to get them on board, help them deal with the family court and filing if they need to modify their obligation, help them to do that. It's a partnership between the custodial parent and child support and the non-custodial parent and child support, and certainly trying to help that family unit any way that we can. So I hope that answered your question. But yeah, we're really excited going back to the Head Start thing. We're really excited to be able to partner with them again and really get back on track to encourage custodial parents who need help, starting a child support case, what steps they can take. We certainly want to be able to do that. So we're really looking forward to being able to take those steps. So what else is going on? What else is going on here at child support? The other things we'll talk a little bit more about Head Start. There's a couple other things. We're going to come out. I've already told Head Start directors. I'm going to tell the early childhood education program directors that we want to come out and do presentations. So this is right now is a plea to if you have a community agency or you're associated with a nonprofit group or educational program, we want to come out and talk to parents about child support, put on a presentation. We have presentations we can share and answer questions, just like we're doing today on this Facebook Live event, to answer questions about the child support program here in Delaware and really talk about some of the things they can do to improve the child support situation, their child support situation here in Delaware. And so that's we're really looking forward to do that. So I wanted to see if I could take a minute. I'm trying to see how I can share my screen. Is there a way to share my screen? I want to put up, just for the purposes of this event, I'm trying to branch out a little bit, so I want to share my screen and put up our contact information. I did it last week, and now I'm having difficulty finding how to share my screen. But if there's any questions, you can certainly put them in the chat. I'll come back to that. Let's see here. Well, I guess I need a little bit more practice with Facebook to go ahead and learn how to do that. Or if one of my staff members who I'm sure are watching, can tell me how to share my screen again, I will go ahead and do that. So other things I want to try and do with this Facebook Live event at some point too is go ahead and do some interviews. I really want to start talking to employers, because really, we talk about employers all the time because they are so important, to the child support program. And that's one of the first things that came up today was, dealing with employers and how we work with them. They are just they're just so vital to making sure that child support payments come into our office timely. Um, we collect about 75% of our child support by orders of income withholding. And, you know, last year we collected $91 million in child support. So that's a lot of money that comes in from employers who really help us collect child support for children here in the state of Delaware and around the country. So they do play a huge role in doing that. So just so super important for us. So I just want to make sure there's no other questions. No other questions. So, all right, we'll keep going. But so Delaware, we have 3 offices statewide. That's one of the benefits of living in our state. 3 offices statewide. Here in Newcastle County, we're located at 84A Churchman's Corporate Center. It's on Christiana Road in Newcastle. The customer service unit telephone number is 302-577-7171. In Kent County, we're located at 905 South Governors Avenue. We're on the 2nd floor. The Department of Elections is on the 1st floor. It's about a quarter of a mile, half a mile south of Kent General Hospital on South Governors Avenue. And then in Sussex County, we're at 105, the Office Circle, and that's in the Georgetown Professional Park on 113, Route 113, right across the street from the Walmart Shopping Center. Like I said, our phone numbers 302-577-7171. We have in our customer service unit 20 individuals who can take your calls. We're still working by appointment only for the most part. It's always good to call. Call. We'll triage your situation, and if you need to come in, we'll direct you to which office to come into. But it's always best to call customer service. We have the ability, and we're going to start, if we have to expand the phone lines so people aren't on hold for a significant amount of time. I always try to tell people, if you are on hold calling the child support office for over 20 minutes, you're probably best hanging up and calling back in. People do tell us from time to time, I've been on hold for an hour, 2 hours. If you're on hold for 2 hours, you should have hung up a long time ago and called back. And I say that because there's probably a phone line issue rather than being on hold for that long. Don't ever be on hold for over 20 minutes. Hang up and call back in. That's probably the best thing you could do. We have 20 individuals. We can expand those phone lines if the call volume gets a little bit high, and they can triage your particular situation and actually direct you to the correct office if you need to come into the office. I see there's another question, so I'll go ahead and answer this. Even if they are not showing up for court, like I have to take off time to go to court, but they never show, and so I'm losing money, and he still has no consequences. Well, it may seem as though there are no consequences, but an individual who does not show up for family court hearings, I know people have to leave work to show up for court hearing, and we certainly, and sometimes those court hearings are not fruitful, are not beneficial, and it seems like a waste of time, but it really isn't. And an individual who does not show up for family court, the courts can issue a bench warrant for their arrest, a civil bench warrant for their failing to meet the scheduled court date. So, at family court, at mediation, they are continuing to do virtual mediation sessions for the long term, and that's a great thing. so that both parents can participate by Zoom or virtual. Those commissioners' hearings, though, are being held in person. And it's important that non-custodial parents show up for those hearings. Absolutely, I 100% agree with that. And the only thing they're doing by not showing up is because I guarantee you the courts will issue a bench warrant for their arrest for not showing up to that hearing. Now, civil bench warrants are very hard to enforce. The police entities really, very rarely will go out and pick somebody up on a capias. Though the situation is when someone gets arrested or is involved in another offense, whether it be a traffic violation or a criminal situation, the courts will, the police agencies will involve the family court in that court process. We'll bring the person in and have the court deal with them. And of course, we'll reschedule a hearing or something along those lines. But we're really relying on the police to get involved when there's a bench warrant. So I know non-custodial parents sometimes don't show up to those hearings, and it does seem like it is nothing is happening, but there are certain avenues the court can take when a non-custodial parent does not participate in the court process. I'm happy as a division director that mediation is being continued through virtual means, because that will hopefully allow non-custodial parents the opportunity. Sometimes they get a little nervous about having to show up to a court hearing thinking they're going to get arrested or taken to jail or something along those lines. So they will participate a little bit more easily when it's done by virtual means. So I know that I know it can be frustrating, of course, but certainly the hope is that they will show up and will deal with their child support situations. So sometimes, and one of the other things I have a hard time doing when I'm doing these live events is I want to make sure I give people resources. Our Delaware child support website, and I'm going to read the website address. You can certainly Google it or anything like that. But our website address is www.dhss.delaware, spelled out, .gov/DCSS. There is a ton of great information on our website. And if you have questions about the child support process, I always try to also refer people to our website. We have tons of great information there about all types of things, especially our enforcement tools. So if you want to know what tools we have, there's a whole web page about the enforcement tools we have here in the state of Delaware. The other thing I wanted to talk a little bit about is our customer website. Our customer website gives you an opportunity to reach out to your worker electronically. It gives you an opportunity to print an account statement or get other notices electronically. So if you want access to your child support case, I strongly encourage you, this is for custodial and non-custodial parents, to go to our website and look for information about our customer website. And it's going to ask you to download an app called my.delaware.gov. That's my.delaware, spelled out, .gov. And it will also give you access to the customer website. And that will give you have to create a username and a password and give you access to that information. And it's such a great tool. There's no reason in 2022 that people shouldn't have an automated way to print account statements at home, ask their worker a question without having to pick up the telephone. You can do it in your car on your lunch break. This is just another way for you to get a hold of people here at the Child Support Office. The other thing we just are starting to do, and I'm going to hold it up to the camera, is we've created this new code, this QR code, that if you scan this code, it will take you to our website, and you can look at all of this information. So I'm going to try to hold it up here. If you scan this code, okay, it will give you access to our website, which has information about our customer website at my.delaware.gov. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, I know some things popped up. Some of the things, some comments, I want to read them because I'm about being fair to everybody here. But two things I wanted to mention. In the next couple months, we are going to be expanding the way non-custodial parents, employers can make payments to the Child Support Office. Very soon, we are setting up a way for people to make payments by telephone. Calling our customer service unit, there's going to be a prompt. I want to make a payment by telephone, and that's happening in the next month or so, very soon. We're really, really, really happy about that. The other two things we're doing is giving people an opportunity to make payments by PayPal and by Venmo. So just continuing to provide non-custodial parents and employers ways to make payments electronically to the Child Support Office. I'm also encouraging people to go to ipay.com. That's a website to make electronic payments to us, and tons of employers do it. Non-custodial parents do it, but we're expanding ways. We want to increase ways for people to be able to make payments here in the state of Delaware to their child support accounts. So let's see here. Just want to catch up to where I was with the last couple comments. Child support is for women, does not help men out whatsoever. So that's not true. Ultimately, we want to. One of the things we're trying to do. I'm going to go back in time a little bit. One of the things we're trying to do, and since 2015, we've really been trying hard. We changed our division's name in 2015 with a huge legislative package that we submitted to Legislative Hall, changed our division's name to the Division of Child Support Services from the Division of Child Support Enforcement. With that, started a huge chain reaction of some of the things we're trying to do to be more customer service focused. And our customers are custodial parents and our non-custodial parents. Regardless of whether you're a female, a male, we want to help you to get child support. We want to help non-custodial parents get on track with their child support. So, I don't necessarily fall in line with the fact that we don't help men. I think we are one of the more proactive non-custodial parent, custodial parent, if you're a male custodial parent, if you're a male non-custodial parent. I think as a division, we work very hard to try and include all participants in this child support process. So, people certainly have a bad opinion about the child support program in general, and I'm working hard with my people here at the management level and at the frontline child support specialist and frontline employee level to increase the way we reach out and work with all parties of their child support case. So, hey, this is a place where people can certainly, I want to make this forum a place that people can express their opinions, and we certainly allow that as long as they're respectful, and that's a respectful statement. And I certainly disagree with it, and we want to try to help you. If you have a problem with child support, we want to help you, regardless if you're a man or a female. We want to help you. So I see we're coming up on the last 5 minutes. So again, I'll put this back up. I don't know if it'll work, but hey, if you want to scan this QR code, we're handing these index cards out at our front desks and other office locations. So, and we're going to make sure people get them and easy access to our child support system, our website, and that kind of thing. So we have one more question, and then I'll conclude for April. And we'll be back in May, the first Monday of the month, from 11:30 to 12:30. And then you can also tune in WGMD 92.7, 98.5, the third Wednesday of the month from 10 to 11. I'm on the radio with Jake Smith, and we take questions and take questions from callers, and we talk about child support in Delaware. 98.5, 92.7 WGMD. And I encourage you, not to promote the radio station or anything, but they've been very, very nice to not only me, but the Delaware Child Support Program here in Delaware. They have a great app. So if you can download their app, it comes in crystal clear. I've listened to it. I live in Dover. I listen to it from Dover, and it's great. So 98.5 and 92.7. So the last question. I am not sure if this has been asked, but I need to file child support. However, I do not have the address for my child's father, nor do I have his work address. How will he get served papers, and how or know that I filed? So, excellent question, and a great way to conclude this month's child support connection. One of the things we do at child support is we do locate. So if you know the non-custodial parent's name, of course, and date of birth, name and social security number, we usually need like 2 identifiers. And our child support specialist can start a locate process on the non-custodial parent to verify that information, to verify a potential mailing address here in the state of Delaware, a potential employer. So we do locate, and that's really one of the first things we have to do. And it happens, quite honestly, it happens quite a bit. Custodial parents may have lost track of where the non-custodial parent is here in Delaware and around the country. And we have tools both federally, we get enforced locate tools, locate information from other agencies and other state agencies here in Delaware and federal agencies around the country to help us do that locate. So never be afraid to file for child support if you need it. You can get a child support application from us online. You can fill it out online if you go to that customer website, and you can submit it to us electronically and that kind of thing. So like I said, I encourage people to go to our website, but we do locate, and we will help locate that person. Before a petition can even be generated with the family court, we have to locate them here and we can locate them here in Delaware or in another state around the country. So I'm going to conclude by saying thank you for tuning in, and we encourage people to tune in next month. The first Monday of the month at 11:30, and I will be back to answer your questions on the Child Support Connection here in the state of Delaware, the Division of Child Support Services. Our customer service unit is telephone number 302-577-7171. Please stay safe. We're still living in a pandemic, even though a lot of the things we've been doing to protect ourselves has been decreased or removed. Always try to protect yourself. And thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next month. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for the great questions.